Well, Wafa Sultan joins us now from Washington. Doctor, we welcome you to this program. Thank you for the book, A God Who Hates. Very interesting.
Thank you so much for having me.
You were raised in Syria. How were women treated under Islam?
Under Islam, women have no rights. They are terribly mistreated. They are considered to be mentally unfit to take care of themselves. A woman under Islamic Sharia has no right to choose her husband, has no right to ask for divorce, has no right to gain custody of her children. Her husband had the right to divorce her without a question asked, had the right to sleep with as many women as he can buy without any consideration for her dignity or her feelings. So generally speaking, women under Islam are isolated from the rest of the world. And I would love to give you an example from my own life. I dedicated my book to the memory of my niece. My niece was forced to marry her cousin. She was 11, he was over 40. Her life with him was very terrible life. He was very abusive. And I always remember her escaping from her husband's home to her father's, begging her father, you know, please let me stay here. I cannot take the torture anymore. He's very abusive. And her father would say, it is shame for a Muslim woman to leave her husband's house without his permission. So go back and I promise I will talk to him. At the age of 28, my niece committed suicide, leaving 4 children behind her.
Let me ask you something. You pointed out, and I won't have to interrupt you but because there's so much else to take in this book. You pointed out that Islam is living in essentially a 7th century world, that they're way backward and that they're losing out in science and medicine and all these other things because of adherence to Islam. Would you tell us about that?
You know, in the Islamic world, we are dealing with the mentality of the 7th century. So it is very hard. We are in totally different time and in totally different planet.
Well, let me ask you this. President Obama last night said, well, he said the terrorists, or whatever term you want to give them, they've hijacked a great religion and changed it. Is that true?
It is a misconception that I need to clarify.
All right.
I believe Muslims are victims of their own belief system. Muslims are hijacked by their doctrine, not the other way around. Well, we are victims of our Islamic teachings, and the problem is deeply rooted in the Islamic doctrine.
Well, where does it come from? Does it come directly from Muhammad? These are the teachings of Muhammad way back to the 7th century?
In order to understand my points, you need to read the biography of Muhammad.
Tell me about it.
And it was mentioned in the Quran that Muhammad is the role model for every Muslim man. So every Muslim man is repeating what his prophet had done.
Well, what about cutting off people's heads, beheading people, and waging war, and trying to take their possessions away from them? Did that come?
Yeah, because the underlying foundation of Islam is to take over the world and submit it under Islamic Sharia. And Muslims at very early age are brainwashed to believe that they are on this earth is to achieve their goal, which is to take over the world.
Well, no,
so they are fighting for the sake of Allah, and they are ordered to go for this fight.
I said on this program that Islam was a political system and I have been criticized by, you name it, Bill O'Reilly, Larry King, and certainly, the Senate committee. Would you repeat what you just said in relation to their desire, desire in relation to the world?
Yeah, it is a big mistake to treat Islam as a religion.
Yeah.
Islam is a political ideology that imposes itself by force. This is the underlying foundation of Islam.
Well, why don't we understand that? I mean, somebody like me that says that, I thought it was a known fact, and yet I'm criticized and pilloried all over the nation. Why doesn't America wake up to this fact?
Yeah, because I believe, generally speaking, Americans have been educated to accept multiculturalism, and that prevents them from judging people on their religious affiliation. And therefore, mostly they adopt the politically correct approach, which I believe is very dangerous, because it prevents people from understanding the truth about Islam.
You said that the people who are Arabic-speaking understand what Muhammad said, and they're the most fanatical, but the many, many Muslims make these prayers, and they don't understand what they're saying. What are in those prayers?
Absolutely. Islam is a pure Arabic religion, and in order to fully understand Islam, you must know how to read and write Arabic. And I believe most of the Islamic texts have never been translated from Arabic to any other language. And this is the problem, because you will never be able to fight to win over the Islamic terrorism unless you get familiar with the Islamic doctrine.
We have a past president, who said Islam is a religion of peace, and you have another one that says that this wonderful, great religion was hijacked by terrorists.
Do they know much about Islam in order to describe it as a peaceful religion? I doubt it.
Well, he was president, and I doubt it too. I disagree with you.
Yeah.
But what do they pray? You had in your book that when they're praying in Arabic, they're essentially cursing the Jews.
Of course they do. Of course. In every prayer, you have to recite the first Quranic verse at least 4 or 5 times. So we pray 5 times per day. So 5 times 5, it's like 25 times per day. We have to recite this verse. This verse curses the Jews and the Christians.
It curses the Jews and the Christians?
Of course it does. And non-Arab Muslims repeat this verse generally speaking, without understanding what they're saying.
Well, there's a senator who was having a committee hearing, and he made some disparaging remarks about me. Do you reckon he understands that they're praying his destruction?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Well, I say that there's a senator who, as I understand, is of the Jewish tradition, and does he understand that the prayers that are being prayed by millions of Muslims is for the destruction of the Jews?
I really don't know if he does or he doesn't. I don't know.
But they pray that every day, that the Jews will be destroyed? Every
day, five times every day. And in every prayer, they have to recite this verse 4 or 5 times each prayer.
One last question, Wafa. What do you think we ought to do in America when we're confronted with the menace of militant Islam? Militant,
I don't believe, there is radical Islam or militant Islam or Wahhabi Islam. There is only one Islam. Growing up in Syria, I had never heard those terms. I truly believe the West, has invented those terms to make people feel better. There is only one kind of Islam. And you will never win this war until you get yourself familiar with the Islamic doctrine.
Wafa.
You have to define your enemy and understand the mindset of your enemy in order to win the war.
Wafa Sultan, thank you. Thank you for this book. It's available, ladies and gentlemen, where books are sold, and I think you'll find it very interesting. So thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you
God
very
bless you.
much. Thanks.